Okay, hello, and welcome. I am Elisa from No Dice Unrolled, and we are here with Avery Alder, and that is a guest at Narrattiva. Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going super fine. Is Bologna treating you well today?
It's been so nice. Yeah, I got here with enough time to spend 3 days kind of exploring the city, which I loved. And then the convention itself, Play, has been it's really wonderful. People are so friendly, good games. Yeah.
Okay, we're so happy to hear that. So I just wanted to start with a really introductory question. That would be like, what kind of first experience with games, role-playing games, did you have? And that is something that impacted on your later works, I guess?
Yeah. Okay, so I've kind of got two answers. The first one, my very first experience with role-playing games was, I would say, not good. I played Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, and I played it with my friends in high school. And every single session, we argued. We didn't agree about how it was supposed to play, what the stories were supposed to be like, and I feel like a normal person might have just been like, okay, role-playing games are not for me. But for whatever reason, I decided that I wanted to fall down a rabbit hole of continuing to learn more and figure out why this game wasn't working for me. And that led me to the Forge, led me to people like the people in Narrattiva, and it led me to indie role-playing games. And so my first games that I played and actually loved, I would say My Life with Master by Paul Sega, and Shock by Jason A.C. Newman. And so these were the games that really opened my eyes about what role-playing games could do. And from that point, I was hooked on, in particular, weird indie role-playing games. Yeah.
That is quite interesting. It is not an uncommon answer that we get, that people started with the more classic and more mechanic heavy games, and then they wanted to steer away from them and then maybe do something that you felt more comfortable, just to maybe, I guess, open the all of the scene to include more people.
Yeah, and I mean, I love to people who play D&D and get something out of it, and sometimes I do as well. But for me, I always found a home with games that were more emotional, that were focused on relationships, that were focused on stories about identity and community, weird small games, and so that's kind of where I found my niche as well.
Thank you very much. That is really interesting. And what about the other kinds of media and other kinds of works that you grab inspiration from? That would be really interesting to see what is behind your ideas.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my work draws on kind of two things. The first is just movies. I tend to kind of fall down a rabbit hole of watching movie after movie after movie for a full year in whatever genre I'm working in. And so for Monster Hearts, that was things like Twilight, Jennifer's Body, shows like True Blood, Ginger Snaps. For my most recent game, Going for Broke, it was actually sitcoms, and so it was a lot of seasons of things like Friends, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, things like that. But for me, the other main inspiration is honestly just like my experience in relationships and communities. I feel like I'm always struggling to like wrap my head around how people work, and so a lot of the time I'm honestly just drawing on my experiences trying to figure out how communities work and how relationships come together.
Yeah, that is really interesting. So you are kind of bringing your personal studies into your works. And about your works, you have here Going for Broke, that would be translated in tutto per tutto in Italian, correct?
Yeah. So Going for Broke, I published last year, and it is a sitcom role-playing game. It's perfect for new players because it's short, it's simple, it plays in less than an hour. I usually say 40 to 50 minutes is kind of the ideal session, and that phrase "going for broke." When Narrattiva translated into Italian, they decided, that's not quite what we would say around here, and they went back to the drawing board and they said, it's tutto per tutto here. So it's I'm really delighted with the version that they made. It looks different, but it feels like it's easy to pick up and play, and so yeah.
Thank you. It's really interesting, all of the translations and all of the adaptations that we have to do to accommodate to for your message and really bring your message into our language, because it's really different and it's quite weird. So we saw that in a lot of your works you bring the focus on LGBTQ plus matters and inclusion, and it has a really central role in your works. What do you want to convey with your with your works? And do you think that your works are having an impact on the community?
I don't know about impact, but I know that for me, I learned a lot about my own identity through role-playing games. It's through role-playing games that I hope to understand that I'm queer, that I'm a trans woman. It's how I learned a lot about what I want out of relationships and what I want out of my connections with people. And so when I think about designing games, I think, how can I give back to that same conversation? How can I support others in those same identity journeys? But also, it's just, I'm queer, my friends are queer, my world is queer, and so that's obviously what I will bring into any work that I do. Even if it's just unintentionally. But yeah, I have heard a lot of people say that that some of my games, Monster Hearts and Dream Askew in particular, they've challenged a lot of their own ideas, and they've learned a lot about their own identity through play, and I'm always just so impacted, I guess, and humbled by that.
Oh, we're happy to see that, and it's interesting because whenever you play role-playing games, you just think, oh, it's not me, so I can think these things, I can feel these emotions, and you feel kind of detached, but then you can explore and you can see what comes out of all of this role play that you're doing with your friends, and so it's really interesting what can come out.
Yeah, I know that for people who work in academia, the term they often use for that, I feel like, is alibi, right? That, oh, we're just playing a game, it's just a character. And sometimes that's all it is, but then sometimes you are able to go a little bit deeper, you're able to reflect and learn something. But what I think is so powerful about role-playing games is that there's the possibility for that really powerful, impactful, kind of emergent story, but also it's just a game. We don't owe anything to the experience. That's actually where the name of my company, Buried Without Ceremony, actually originates from, is that these are experiences that can be profound, that can be meaningful, but also they're just play, and we're allowed to bury them without ceremony. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that. That is really interesting. And also, do you bring your games to the table? Do you GM?
While I've been here, I've run one session of Monster Hearts and 2 sessions of Tutto per Tutto, and I think I'm going to run a few more, maybe a few sessions of the Quiet Year. But a lot of what I'm here to do is just to meet people, to connect, sign a few books, do a few interviews like this one, and just kind of get to connect with Italian gaming culture, it's really lovely. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Do you find, so you're obviously GMing in English while we are in Italy. Do you find any sort of language barrier or some misconceptions, misunderstandings that you're having, or everything is going fine?
You know, I was actually really worried about that coming here with running sessions of Going for Broke, like running sessions of Tutto per Tutto, because comedy is it's so specific to different cultures, and it's so specific to little twists of language, and so I was worried that it might not work to sit down at a table with mostly people who mostly speak Italian, and to be like, okay, we're going to try this in English. But it's worked out, yeah. I mean, a lot of it is just learning to read people's body language and figure out what's funny together, and that transcends language, luckily. So
laughing all together is multilingual. Perfect. That is really interesting. And is there anything that you remember, any particular moment that you're fond of during that came out during the games, or is there a moment that particularly left you with a bitter taste in your mouth, like someone didn't get your message or got it wrong?
I won't say any bitter tastes because we don't need to put anyone on blast here. But in terms of fond memories, yeah, I played a session of Monster Hearts yesterday, and it was one of those sessions where it just felt like everything came together just perfectly in the end. And one of the character archetypes, the queen, the queen bee of the high school, she finds the werewolf after the werewolf has turned into a wolf and harmed people and run away, and now she's she's slinking away in the shadows, and she's back in human form, and her clothes are ripped, and she feels so ashamed and embarrassed, and the queen just comes up and offers her just a bag with new clothes in it, and just silently, she doesn't have to say anything, it's clear that you're one of my people now, I take care of you, and it was just, it was so good.
Oh wow, that is such a nice and wonderful moment. And actually, speaking of Monster Heart, I played a session of it, and I think I was the vampire, the dark and secluded girl that is really on her own and doesn't want to speak with anyone. And it was really interesting because, like, thinking about me during my teens year, and I was such a loner and I got to bring back my young self, but like interpret it in a different light. And I think it is really interesting, and I think that for your own studies, I don't know, have you ever seen something click in the mind of people?
Yeah, with Monster Hearts in particular, because I think we all have so much like unprocessed material from high school. We have so many stories that we've already lived through, but we haven't yet made sense of. And when we have a chance to re-experience those stories in a new way, through metaphor, through alibi, suddenly something clicks for us about who we are, what we went through, what was hard about it. And I find that sometimes the metaphor of being monsters lets us tell a story that's more real than if it was reality. Yeah.
Yeah, I can confirm. And another thing that we noticed, I mean, that is common knowledge, you often pair these LGBTQ plus thematics with post-apocalyptic worlds, and I was wondering if you saw a connection, or if you want to bring some informations to us with this pairing.
Yeah, I guess, so for me, when I think about queer stories, I think about the importance of community, because it's when we find one another and when we can kind of create our own little world within the world together, that queer community and queer identity are allowed to thrive and are allowed to become strong and resilient together. But that's hard to do in the world that we live in. And so queer stories for me are community stories. And I think what's really helpful about kind of the post-apocalyptic or the collapse genre is that It allows us to take all of the big institutions of the world that we don't have control over, the sense of powerlessness in such a big, modern, intricate world, and we can kind of collapse a lot of that, and we can become local again, and we can become immediate, and we can become really focused on just telling stories about just the people who are around us, because in a post-apocalyptic world, that's kind of all there is. And so for me, it's almost like a cheat code. It's an easy way to just take all the things that don't matter to a story about community and say, well, they don't exist anymore. It's just us. It's just me and you and all of our complex history, and we have to figure out how to survive together, because if we don't, we'll die.
Yeah, you're making it simple. You just focus on that, and it's interesting because in a post-apocalyptic world, you also have to collaborate, and you have to be friends and accept the others, and your identity is changing, and you are evolving, and you're finding yourself in a different light, and yeah, it's quite interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Anyway, about this, about the LGBTQ plus inclusion and representation, what do you think about the role-playing community? Do you find it inclusive enough? Do you find there is enough representation? What are your ideas on that?
Yeah, I think it depends what part of the role-playing game community you're a part of. I think there are some parts of the community that are less inclusive, not even just of LGBTQ people, but of women, of people of different races. But in the parts of the community that I care about, that I show up for, I find they're very inclusive, and I find that that's so important, because role-playing games can really be a safe haven for people. They can be a safe haven for people from lots of different walks of life who might feel like the world out there isn't very welcoming. But in here, together, we can tell stories about different worlds, and we can go there together. And so, yeah, I feel like role-playing game community has been amazingly welcoming to me, amazingly inclusive, and I just want to continue to build that story. Yeah.
Okay, we're so happy, and also we hope that you're finding yourself okay and accepted here in Italy. Do you think there might be something that might be done to improve the situation? Maybe in the areas that you said there's less inclusivity?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, being more inclusive. I'm not really sure what to say to that one, I guess. I think that the change comes from both sides. It comes from people being willing to make space, but it also comes from people being willing to just take up space. And so I hope that when people don't feel like there's really room for them at the table, they put an elbow in and they make the room for themselves. But I also hope that the people who run those tables think to pull up an extra chair. Yeah, okay, so the effort has to be on both sides, and it's quite interesting. Yeah, I guess I hope that we are also trying to better, and we can leave the mark, and I'm sure that games like yours and many other can help people be more inclusive, and I hope that everything goes in a better direction. But lastly, is it your first time being here in Bologna, being here in Play, this convention? It's not my first time at Play. I was here in 2018 when it was still in Modena, and And so being here this time, I'm seeing some familiar faces, and I get to say, oh, Stefano, Adriano. And so that's been really lovely, just to see people who, you know, at the time I never thought I would see them again, honestly, and now I get to. It's not technically my first time in Bologna. The last time I was in Italy, I flew into the Bologna airport. I spent one night in an Airbnb, and then I had to get up very early the next morning to catch a train. But I remember as I was leaving, I was like, oh, I wish that I got more time in the city. It seems so beautiful. It seems so like amazing. I'm so mad that I only have like 5 hours here. And so this time I was like, okay, it's actually in Bologna, and I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna come 3 or 4 days early. I'm gonna spend some time exploring. I walked up the portico path to the Santuario Madonna di San Luca.
That was perfect.
Okay, and that was amazing. I went to the Mambo, I went to the National Gallery, and I also just spent time walking around the streets. The architecture is really beautiful. The city feels lived in. It feels like people are out at night, and yeah, it feels really warm and welcoming. I come from a place that's very cold. The streets are very big. There's not many people out ever, and so it feels really nice to be in a city that feels so alive.
Oh, thank you so much. And anyway, thank you for allowing us for this chat. And again, thank you to Narrattiva. And it was super interesting, super fun talking with you. And thank you so much also for showing us your new games.
Yeah.
Hope that everything goes fine, everything goes well, and everything moves in better places. Thank you so much.
Grazie mille.
Grazie mille. Bye.
Thanks for staying with us. If you've enjoyed yourself, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more content.